All right. Next one is Mike McCarthy will finish the season as the Cowboys head coach. Let's go with
I'm
Jason
buying.
first.
I'm buying it.
Buying it? All
I'm
right.
buying it. I think he could go 0-17 and he'd still finish the season because Jerry Jones.
Okay.
He's not one to really fire coaches in midseason. He's doesn't really have a reputation of that. And he's Mike McCarthy. They got to be buddies or something for him to still be around.
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that guy right there, he it's his season to blow or his season to succeed in. But it is their year. He's got to do something. Otherwise, he is going to be
Yeah.
out of the job.
Okay. All right. So you're buying. Justin, you buying or selling?
Um, that's a tough one. I want to go sell, but I think I'm going to buy too. I think I'm going to buy too, just because, not necessarily because of Jerry Jones, partly because of him, because I do agree with Jason that Jerry Jones is the guy that's just he's gonna ride with his guy. But he also did in the offseason say, like, if he had to, he has options. He had options.
Yeah.
you know, uh, so I would say this. I think more than anything, it's just out of respect for the players that they have on the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys as a franchise, they love their players that they have currently. Dak, CD, all the young guys they brought in, Parsons, Diggs. And I think just out of respect for their players, just to get through the season with their coach, not have to deal with that in season, that kind of turmoil. I think that the Cowboys would stick with McCarthy. I would say this: the one shot, and it would see this may be contradictory, but let's just say the Cowboys are like teetering, right? They're teetering on the brink of a playoff record, a playoff team, but maybe they just feel like McCarthy's not the guy to get them there, like always, right? Maybe they make that decision. But if they're just flat out losing, if they're flat out losing games, I don't see them making the change midseason. Or so I know it's kind of contradictory. I know it would seem that if they're just losing games, you just get rid of McCarthy, right? That's kind of what you would think, but in my opinion, I kind of reverse that with the Cowboys because the truth is, he's like the guy that gets them like right there, you're teetering, and it's like, oh man, we didn't do anything with it. So I feel like if they're in that position again, mid-season, just after mid-season even, maybe week 10, 11, and you could tell they're a good team, but they just aren't being led, right? Let's call it that. They're not being led. They're not being coached. You got to fucking get rid of them. Pardon me. You got to get rid of
All right. All right. So you're buying as well. With the scenario where you may sell. All right. Um, I'll say that I agree with Jason. You're absolutely right. Jerry Jones, I think, has only fired one coach midseason since he's owned the Dallas Cowboys, one or two, and that's it. And I think one of them was Jason
Mhm.
Garrett, and that was because they were clearly eliminated from the playoff picture, and he let them go. But I think that Mike McCarthy, here's the scenario I see happening. I think if they start to lose a bunch of games, but Jerry still feels like they have a chance to make the playoffs, I could see Mike McCarthy getting replaced by Dan Quinn because they did keep Dan Quinn in the offseason and having Dan Quinn finish the season as the head coach. I also think that either way, I think that Sean Payton is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next year when the season kicks off. No matter what, unless Mike McCarthy wins the Super Bowl this year, I think that Sean Payton will be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next year, no matter what. But I do think that there's one possibility of Mike McCarthy being fired in midseason, and that's if they start off with a really rough record, but Jerry still feels like there's time for them to get back in the playoff hunt because of the division they play in. They don't play in a very strong division, so if he feels like, hey, if we make this switch and give the team a jolt, it can propel us into that division spot because there's likely only going to be one team coming out of the East, possibly two. There were two last year, but it's unlikely because that team just really beats themselves up and they're not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to sell and say that Mike McCarthy does not get his team to eliminate the penalties. He does not get better at managing the clock, and he does not lead his team. And I'm going to say he gets fired by week 7. I'm even going to give you a week that it happens.
It would have to be early. I agree. It'd have to be early like that. Mid-season, just before mid-season, if that were the scenario.
So I'm going to say I'm selling. He gets
All right.
fired. And I'm also going to say that Sean Payton is head coach of the Cowboys next year, no matter what, unless Mike McCarthy wins the Super Bowl, which is not going to happen.
All right.